Hey, one of the rules is you're on a campaign, have fun. That is good. There were a few moments tonight when I was not having so much fun. But you know what kept me going? I knew you were over here and you were listening. That's what I They think that the American people want this war to go on forever, and we know differently. Our goal is to live within the rule of law, within the Constitution, and get our troops home from all around the world. Not just the Middle East, but from Europe and Asia and Japan and the whole world. But it is very encouraging wherever we go. The crowds are growing and they're getting very, very supportive. And of course, everybody knows we did quite well in the third quarter. And I don't watch the numbers on an hourly basis or a daily basis, but in months. But it is my understanding that the fundraising is going very well, and we have to continue that for the rest of this campaign. This week we have invested some of that money. We have kept it back to get enough money in the kitty. We have it there, and we're ready to go to bat, and we're starting with TV and radio in the many, many early stages. So all of a sudden this campaign is going to get a lot more active, but we need to continue to do exactly what we're doing. I understand that there's well over 1,000 meetup groups already. You know, I have made the claim, and you all agree, I'm sure, that freedom is very popular, right? It is so popular that when you hear this message around the world, we have 40 meetup groups overseas. We have one in Baghdad. We have them all throughout Europe, and we have one in Israel as well. But the beautiful thing about freedom is it brings us together. And it tends to be that all of us are rather diverse and different. That's what's magnificent about freedom. We tolerate other people, we let people mind their own business, and we mind our own business. Their own lives as they so choose. We'd like to get to the point where you get to spend all your money any way you want. No more of this welfareism and no more of this warfareism, and get rid of the IRS. I want to tell you something that's really exciting, because I've talked about this issue for a long time. I talked about it from the very first time I campaigned in the 70s when I got concerned about a particular issue. And on campuses now, this is getting the loudest applause of all the issues. Talk about taxes and war, that's very, very loud. But now, when I talk about the Federal Reserve, people are waking up and they know what's happening. You know, all that talk tonight about how they're going to take care of this, education and medical care, like I said, it doesn't mean a thing, because they don't have the money. There's no more money they can squeeze out of it. We're going broke, and this is why we need to get the government out of our hair and out of our pockets. Many problems we have developed over the years have come by the fact that we don't follow the rule of law. And very simply, and even tonight when I mentioned it, that crowd was not nearly as responsive as this one may well be. Well, why don't we stick to the Constitution? There's one issue I don't bring up a whole lot, but I think it's very important because sometimes we get blamed for not caring. And that is the issue of the environment. I think it's a very important issue. And they say that if you believe in the Constitution, you believe in free markets, you don't care. But you know what? The best way to protect the environment is to make sure that property is privately owned and you have no right to pollute your neighbor's property. You know, the subject of energy keeps coming up, you know, and could it be that burning too much fuel puts CO2 in the air? And that's a very controversial argument. I think they worry more than they have to, and they like to put fear into us on that issue. But if you take, if you look at some of the places where we might cut back on fuel consumption, we find out that if you look at what the Pentagon and what our foreign policy consumes, it's nearly 400 millions of barrels of oil every single day. Now, that is more. If there are 210 countries in the world, there's only 35 countries that burn more fuel per day than our Pentagon. I would say that's a good place to start. And of course, dropping a lot of bombs around the world doesn't necessarily help the atmosphere either. Uranium help the environment. So there's a lot of things that could be done, and there's a lot of problems in the world, but believe me, they're not nearly as difficult as they make it out to be. They claim that you have to be willing to sacrifice your liberty because there might be a terrorist. You never have to sacrifice any liberty whatsoever. The whole thing is terrorism is very real. But terrorism can't be defined. This idea that we have a perpetual war forever on terrorism when they can't even define it is a very, very dangerous notion because they make people conditioned to think that we have to sacrifice our liberties, and they want us to pass things like the Patriot Act. But this is our greatest threat. Those of you who have served, and some of you I'll bet you are in the military, we take an oath to uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign